The night was quiet over the city. Lights blinked in tall buildings. Cars moved in endless lines, and people went about their usual lives. No one expected that the world was about to change forever. At first, only a few stargazers noticed. Something huge was drifting in the sky far above the clouds. It was not a plane, not a satellite. It was darker than the night itself, a shadow swallowing the stars. Then the power went out. Street lamps turned off. Screens went black. For one long moment, the world was silent, as if the earth itself was holding its breath. And then people looked up and saw it. A warship. It was not built by human hands. It was massive, shaped like a floating fortress with edges that glowed faintly blue. Strange symbols burned across its surface, moving like rivers of light. No one knew what language it was, but everyone understood one thing. This was not from Earth. News spread like fire. Within minutes, every camera, every channel, every live stream was pointing at the sky. Crowds filled the streets. Some screamed in fear. Some cheered, believing this was a sign from the heavens. Governments rushed to respond. Fighter jets scrambled, missiles were armed, armies were placed on high alert. But the ship did not attack. It only floated above the world, silent, waiting. The billionaires came next. They were the first to make offers. One promised gold, another offered control of nations, another spoke of endless power. Their words flew across secret lines and hidden channels. They said, "Give us your ship and we will give you everything." But the warship did not move. It did not answer. Its lights pulsed like a beating heart, ignoring all the wealth and power humans tried to give. People were afraid. Why would such a powerful ship come here only to stay silent? Was it planning war? Was it searching for something? Some said it was a weapon left from an alien battle long ago. Others whispered it was alive, and it was waiting for the right person to call its name. Days passed. Billionaires sent armies of scientists, engineers, and hackers. They built towers of machines trying to connect with the ship. Nothing worked. They climbed higher and higher with rockets reaching for the black shadow above. Each time they failed. The warship stayed closed, silent and cold. Then something strange happened. In a small city far away from the billionaires' tall glass towers, a man named Eli walked to work. Eli was not rich. He was not famous. He had no medals, no degrees, no power. He was a janitor. Every night he cleaned the floors of offices where powerful men spoke and rich men laughed. He swept the dust they left behind. He wiped the glass they touched. He lived in silence, unnoticed by the world. On that night, while billionaires argued over who would own the warship, Eli was doing his job. The city had placed new guards near the restricted zone, where scientists tried to study the ship. Eli was sent there to clean the floors of the observation building. He did not care about aliens or billionaires. He only wanted to finish his work and go home, but as he walked near the glass walls, something impossible happened. The warship moved. The lights on its surface glowed brighter, racing across the alien metal like fire. The symbols shifted, turning into new shapes. The scientists gasped. The generals shouted. The billionaires watching from their tall towers leaned forward in shock. For the first time since it had arrived, the warship was alive, and all of this happened only when Eli, the janitor, walked past. He stopped and looked up, confused. The ship pulsed with blue light, almost like it was breathing with him. The ground shook softly as if the world itself recognized him. "Why him?" a general whispered. "Who is that man?" a billionaire demanded. "No, and it can't be," a scientist said, but there was no mistake. The warship had chosen to respond not to money, not to weapons, not to power. It had responded to the steps of a simple man who cleaned floors for a living. Eli's hands trembled. He wanted to run, but his legs would not move. He felt something, an invisible voice, a call inside his chest, pulling him closer to the glass. The ship's lights formed one clear shape at last, a single glowing circle pointing down at him. The crowd outside screamed. Cameras flashed. Soldiers raised their weapons. The billionaires shouted into their phones, but the ship did not care. For the first time, it had spoken. And the one it had spoken to was a janitor. The world could not believe what had happened. Billionaires had thrown mountains of gold and oceans of money toward the alien warship. Generals had raised armies. Presidents had made promises. Yet nothing worked. Nothing moved the ship until a poor janitor walked by. News exploded across every screen. Headlines screamed, "Warship chooses a nobody." Cameras followed Eli, the quiet man who had swept floors only hours before. His face appeared everywhere. Some called him chosen, others called him a mistake, and some called him a threat. Eli himself did not understand. He never wanted this. He only wanted to live a simple life. But the ship had spoken through him, and now the eyes of the entire planet were on him. At night, Eli sat in his small apartment. The lights outside flashed with reporters' cameras. He could hear them shouting his name, begging for answers. His hands shook as he tried to eat. He asked himself over and over, why me? The next day, armed soldiers came. They told him he must go with them. They said it was for his protection, but when Eli looked into their eyes, he felt no safety there. He saw fear. He saw greed. They did not want to protect him. They wanted to use him. They took him to a large hall where billionaires and world leaders waited. Their suits were sharp, their watches heavy with gold. The air smelled of power and perfume. They looked at him as if he was a rare object, not a man. One billionaire, a tall man with silver hair, leaned forward. "You are nothing," he said, "but the ship listens to you. If you open it for us, we will make you rich beyond your dreams. You will never have to clean again." Another billionaire spoke, her voice sharp as a knife. "Do it for your country," she said. "If you don't, you are betraying humanity." Eli lowered his eyes. He felt small in front of them, but deep inside something stirred. He remembered the way the ship's lights had moved when he walked past. They had not asked for money. They had not asked for power. They had asked for him. "I don't know how it works," Eli said softly. "I don't control it." The room went cold. Murmurs spread like fire. The leaders exchanged dark looks. If he could not give them what they wanted, then he was useless or dangerous. That night, they locked him in a guarded room. But Eli was not alone. The warship appeared again, not in the sky this time, but in his dreams. He stood inside endless halls of light and metal. Strange glowing symbols floated around him. He could hear a voice, not in words, but in feelings. It told him, "You are not chosen by chance. You fix what others throw away. You clean what others ignore. That is why we wait for you." Eli woke with sweat on his face. His heart pounded. The message was clear. The warship did not want kings or billionaires. It wanted someone who understood work without greed, someone who gave without expecting reward. But outside, the billionaires were furious. They met in secret, whispering plans. "If he will not give us the ship, we will take it from him. If he resists, we remove him. A janitor cannot stand against us." They did not know the ship was listening. The next day, guards forced Eli to the observation deck again. Cameras watched. Billionaires stood behind glass, hungry for a miracle. Soldiers lined the hall with weapons ready. Eli took one step forward. The ship lit up. Symbols raced across its skin, faster and brighter than before. The ground shook. A low hum filled the air, so powerful it rattled the glass walls. Gasps filled the room. Some shouted, "It's working." Others cried out in fear. Soldiers raised weapons. Scientists frantically wrote notes, their hands trembling. But then something unexpected happened. A barrier of blue light spread from the ship, covering Eli like a shield. The soldiers aimed their guns, but sparks shot from their weapons, disabling them. Billionaires shouted orders, but their voices drowned in the roar of the alien hum. The warship was protecting him. Eli's heart raced. He didn't know why it was doing this, but he felt the same calm voice inside his chest. It was telling him to step closer, to trust it. He reached out his hand toward the glass. The ship's lights flared brighter as if answering his touch. The barrier widened, now spreading beyond the building, wrapping the entire zone in shimmering energy. The billionaires froze. Fear filled their eyes. They realized the truth. The ship did not belong to them. It did not belong to governments. It did not belong to money. It belonged to Eli, the janitor. And with every passing second, the bond between him and the warship grew stronger. The world had thought the chosen one would be a king, a soldier, or a rich man. But no, the ship had chosen the most unlikely human of all, and the billionaires would not forgive this. The warship's blue glow still lingered in the night sky, a light that seemed to challenge every tower of glass and steel below. It had chosen Eli, a poor janitor, and the entire world had seen it. For the first time, the billionaires were powerless. Their gold, their armies, their influence, all useless against the ship's silent decision. But powerful men and women are not used to being ignored. Anger began to boil in private rooms and hidden chambers. Behind closed doors, the richest of the rich gathered. Their eyes were sharp, their voices cold. "This cannot stand," one billionaire said, slamming his jeweled fist on a table of glass. "A janitor will not decide the future of Earth," another hissed. "The ship belongs to us," a third whispered, his voice low and dangerous. "And if it does not give itself, then we will take it." They called themselves guardians of humanity. But in truth, they feared only one thing: losing control. The warship had ignored their money, their promises, their threats. Now they saw only one path forward. Eli must be removed. While Eli slept in a guarded room, the billionaires plotted. They spread lies in the news, painting him as a danger. "The janitor is not chosen," one headline screamed. "He is cursed." Another read, "Simple worker threatens Earth's safety." Step by step, they turned fear against him. Eli woke to shouting outside his window. Crowds had gathered with signs and torches. Some screamed his name like a hero. Others spat it like poison. Confusion filled the streets. Was he savior or monster? Inside, Eli felt his chest tighten. He never wanted this warship, this attention, this danger. He only wanted peace. But now even his neighbors looked at him with suspicion. He could feel the billionaire's shadow stretching long across the world. That night, Eli dreamed again of the warship. He stood inside glowing halls of light. Strange alien figures appeared, shapes of soldiers, leaders, and kings. But every time the ship's voice whispered, not them. Not the greedy. Not the cruel. And then Eli saw himself reflected in a wall of silver metal. Just a janitor. Just a man who cleaned what others ignored. The voice came again, steady and calm. "You are not chosen for power. You are chosen because you expect nothing in return." Eli woke with tears in his eyes. He did not feel strong. He did not feel brave. But he knew one truth now. The ship had chosen him not for what he was, but for what he was not. Meanwhile, the billionaire's revenge was moving. They hired mercenaries, shadows in black armor, trained to kill quietly. They gave them one mission: capture the janitor. Bring him alive if possible, but remove him if necessary. They did not care if cities burned in the process. On the third night, the attack began. The guards outside Eli's room never saw it coming. Lights went out. A high-pitched whine filled the air. Then silence. When the lights returned, the guards were gone. The doors burst open and masked men rushed in. Eli froze. His heart pounded. He wanted to run, but before he could move, the warship answered. Blue light shot from the sky like a spear, wrapping the building in a shield. The mercenaries shouted and fired weapons, but their bullets turned to dust against the glowing barrier. The ground shook, alarms screamed, glass shattered, and then something stranger happened. The ship created shadows, moving forms of energy shaped like warriors. They were not human, not machine. They moved like smoke, yet struck like iron. The mercenaries fought, but every shot was useless. The shadows forced them back until only silence remained. Eli stood trembling in the middle of the chaos. He had never seen death so close, never felt such danger. Yet he also knew, if not for the warship, he would already be gone. Above the city, the warship pulsed brighter, its glow spreading far and wide. It was a warning. The billionaires saw the message clearly. The ship was alive. The ship was aware, and it was willing to protect its chosen one at all costs. But instead of fear, anger burned hotter in their hearts. They were not used to defeat. One billionaire raised his glass in the meeting and said, "If we cannot break the shield, then we will break the man. A janitor is weak. Everyone has a weakness. We will find his." The others nodded, their eyes like knives. They spoke of digging into Eli's life, of finding his past, his family, his pain. They would turn the world against him until he begged the ship to let him go. Eli sat alone that night, staring at the glowing warship above. He knew the billionaires would never stop. He felt the weight of the entire planet pressing down on his shoulders. He whispered softly into the night, not knowing if the ship could hear. "I'm just a man. Why me?" But the warship's lights pulsed in answer, calm and steady, almost like a heartbeat. And deep down, Eli realized something terrifying. The billionaires were not his only enemy now. Governments were watching, armies were preparing, and the whole world was dividing. Some wanted him dead. Some wanted him crowned. The janitor had become the most important man on Earth, and soon everyone would come for him. The city had never slept so restlessly. Above it, the alien warship floated like a dark moon glowing with quiet blue light. Below, humans argued, fought, and schemed. Some called Eli a savior, others wanted him destroyed. But no one denied the truth anymore. The warship had chosen him. Eli, the janitor who had once lived a silent life, now felt the weight of billions of eyes pressing on him. Crowds filled the streets outside his guarded building. Some carried banners with his name written in fire. Others held signs that cursed him as a danger. Inside, Eli sat quietly, head bowed, wondering why fate had dragged him into this storm. That night, the warship called him again. It began with a hum, low and steady, vibrating in his chest. The walls around him flickered with faint blue light. He closed his eyes and felt himself pulled away, lifted, carried not by his feet but by something greater. When he opened his eyes, he was no longer in the guarded room. He stood inside the warship itself. The interior was unlike anything human hands had ever built. The halls were vast, stretching into endless distance, glowing softly as if alive. The walls moved and breathed like a creature's chest. Strange patterns flowed across them like rivers of stars. The air was heavy but not suffocating. It carried the smell of storms and iron. Eli took a step and the floor lit beneath his foot. Another step, and more light followed, as if the ship was guiding him forward. At the end of the hall, a circle opened, and he entered a chamber that shone brighter than any place he had ever seen. The walls were mirrors reflecting endless versions of himself. In one reflection he was sweeping floors, in another he was hiding from crowds, in another he was standing tall, a commander of soldiers. Then the mirrors shifted. No longer did they show him. They showed kings, generals, and billionaires. Each figure reached toward the ship, their eyes burning with greed and hunger. But every time they touched the ship, the mirrors cracked, rejecting them. Finally, the reflection returned to Eli. He saw himself holding nothing. No crown, no gun, no gold, only a mop in his hand, and the ship's voice filled the chamber. This is why you were chosen. You do not take, you give. Eli's throat went dry. I'm no leader, he whispered. I'm just a janitor. The voice answered, steady as the heartbeat of the stars. We are not searching for leaders. We are searching for those who mend, those who restore, those who clean the broken. As the words echoed, the chamber shifted again. The walls peeled away like curtains, and Eli saw visions. Fleets of alien ships in battle, worlds burning under fire, cities falling into dust. He saw soldiers screaming, leaders betraying, planets crushed under greed. The warship showed him war after war until Eli fell to his knees, clutching his head. Why are you showing me this? He gasped. The voice thundered. Because we have seen greed destroy worlds. We will not let greed destroy yours. The images faded. The chamber grew silent again. In the silence, Eli understood. The ship was not a weapon to be sold. It was a guardian, waiting for someone who did not crave power. But outside the ship, the world was moving fast. The billionaires had learned of Eli's disappearance from his guarded room. They did not know the ship had pulled him inside. To them, it looked like Eli had escaped. And that meant one thing. He was now a fugitive. They called emergency meetings. Secret orders went out. Drones swarmed the skies. Armies moved into position. Eli had become not just the chosen one, but the most hunted man alive. Inside the ship, Eli felt the pull again, guiding him deeper. He entered another chamber, this one filled with strange machines glowing in patterns like alien stars. A seat stood in the center, carved from metal that seemed alive. The ship's voice whispered, "Sit." Fear gripped him. What if this was a trap? What if the ship wanted to consume him? But something inside told him it was trust. Slowly, Eli lowered himself into the seat. The moment his body touched the surface, the chamber exploded with light. Symbols ran across his skin like fire, glowing in patterns he could not read but somehow understood. The ship and Eli became one. He gasped as images poured into his mind. Controls, pathways, maps of stars beyond human eyes. He saw galaxies unknown, fleets hidden in the void, weapons that could shatter worlds. And yet, at the center of it all, he felt calm. The ship's voice returned, softer now, almost human. You are not alone anymore. Together we mend. Together we guard. Tears blurred Eli's vision. He felt smaller than ever, yet stronger too. For the first time he realized, this warship had not only chosen him, it had needed him. But far away on Earth, the billionaires prepared their revenge. They had failed to buy the ship. They had failed to break its shield. Now they would strike harder. Armies of mercenaries, fleets of machines, endless money poured into one plan. Storm the restricted zone, capture Eli, and take the ship by force. Eli opened his eyes inside the glowing chamber. He could feel it. The storm was coming. And the warship whispered one last warning. They will come for you. But remember this, only you decide if humanity deserves protection or punishment. The warship hovered silently above the world, its glow casting shadows across the earth. People stared at it with hope, fear, and suspicion. Everyone knew the truth now. The alien ship had bonded with a human janitor named Eli. But instead of calming the world, this truth tore it apart. Nations argued. Leaders shouted at each other in secret meetings. Billionaires whispered in dark rooms. To them, Eli was not chosen, he was stolen property. A janitor had no right to hold the greatest power the earth had ever seen. If money could not buy the ship, then blood would take it. Eli felt the pressure growing every day. Wherever he went, cameras followed. Some people cheered him, reaching out hands as if to touch a savior. Others cursed, spitting at his name, calling him a danger. Posters covered walls. Some painted him as a hero, others as a monster. The world was breaking into two sides, those who believed in him and those who wanted him gone. Inside the warship, Eli felt peace. The ship showed him visions, guided him, taught him strange things. But every time he stepped outside, he faced the weight of anger, greed, and fear. The billionaires had begun spreading lies faster than wildfire. They said Eli was secretly planning to use the ship against humanity. They said he was in league with aliens, ready to enslave mankind. People who once trusted him now doubted. But the worst wound came not from strangers, it came from someone close. Among the few people Eli trusted was a man named Jordan, a security officer who had been guarding him since the first day the warship lit up. Jordan was young, kind, and always offered Eli quiet encouragement. While others looked at Eli with suspicion, Jordan treated him like a person. Eli thought he had found a friend in the chaos. He was wrong. The billionaires had reached Jordan first. They offered him wealth beyond his dreams, safety for his family, and a future of power. All he had to do was betray the janitor. Jordan struggled, torn between loyalty and temptation. But in the end, greed whispered louder than friendship. One night, Eli sat quietly inside his small safe house. The warship glowed faintly through the clouds above, like a guardian watching over him. Jordan entered with calm footsteps, carrying food. Eli smiled weakly, thankful for the only person he thought he could trust. "Eat," Jordan said softly, but his hands shook as he placed the tray down. Eli frowned. "What's wrong?" Before Jordan could answer, the door burst open. Armed mercenaries flooded the room, their boots slamming against the floor. Guns pointed at Eli from every side. He froze in shock, his eyes turning to Jordan. Jordan could not meet his gaze. His face burned with shame, but his pockets were already heavy with the price of betrayal. Eli's chest felt hollow. "You?" "I had no choice," Jordan whispered, though even he knew it was a lie. The mercenaries grabbed Eli, forcing him to the ground. Cameras hidden nearby captured everything, sending the images across the world. People gasped as they saw the chosen one dragged like a criminal. The billionaires smiled in hidden rooms, certain they had finally won. But the warship had other plans. The moment Eli cried out, the sky above split open. Blue light shot downward like thunder. The ground shook as the ship's shield formed around the safe house. Mercenaries fired their weapons, but the bullets turned to sparks, vanishing in the glowing energy. The warship's hum roared, vibrating in every bone. Walls cracked, windows shattered, and soldiers stumbled back in fear. Eli felt the bond again, stronger than ever. The ship was not just protecting him, it was angry. The mercenaries ran. Jordan fell to his knees, his hands covering his face. He had betrayed the only man who had trusted him, and the ship had witnessed it all. Eli stood slowly, his eyes filled not with hatred, but sorrow. "Why?" he asked Jordan. Jordan shook his head, tears spilling. "They promised me everything." I was weak. Eli turned away. He could feel the ship calling him, pulling him closer. The betrayal had cut deep, but the lesson was clear. Greed was everywhere, even in those he trusted most. If he wanted to survive, he could trust only the ship. Outside, the billionaires raged. Their plan had failed. The warship had proven again that it would not bow to them. But instead of giving up, they grew more desperate. "If we cannot capture him," one billionaire snarled, "we will destroy him. Let the world burn if it must. Better ashes than obedience to a janitor." And so preparations began for the greatest attack the Earth had ever seen. Entire armies would march. Weapons hidden in secret vaults would be unleashed. The world would soon witness a storm unlike any before. Eli stood at the center of it all, betrayed, hunted, yet still protected by the alien ship that pulsed above like a heartbeat. He realized then that his fight was no longer just for survival. It was for humanity itself. And as the warship whispered inside his mind, he understood one terrifying truth. Betrayal was only the beginning. The real war was about to begin. The night sky was heavy with silence. The warship floated above the earth, glowing faintly blue, as if it was holding its breath. Below, armies gathered. Tanks rolled across the ground. Jets cut through the sky. Billionaires poured endless money into weapons, buying entire nations to their side. To them, Eli was no longer just a janitor. He was a threat greater than any army, a man who held the key to the most powerful ship in existence. Eli stood inside the warship, alone, his heart racing. The betrayal of Jordan still cut him deeply. He had learned the harsh truth. Even the kindest smile could hide a greedy heart. And now, the entire world was preparing to destroy him. The ship's voice whispered inside him, calm and steady. "Do not fear. You are not alone." Eli pressed his hand against the glowing walls. "They're coming," he whispered. "The whole world is coming." The ship pulsed with light as if nodding. "Then it is time." The chamber around him shifted. Walls moved like waves, opening paths he had never seen. Eli followed, each step lighting the floor beneath him. Finally, he entered the core of the ship, a vast circular hall brighter than the sun with a single seat in the center. It pulsed with energy, waiting for him. "Sit," the voice urged. Fear clawed at him. What if he failed? What if the ship consumed him? But he also knew there was no choice. Slowly, Eli stepped forward and lowered himself into the seat. The moment his body touched it, the ship came alive. Light exploded across its surface, racing like fire over steel. Symbols glowed on Eli's skin, binding him to the ship. His mind filled with visions, not just of Earth, but of the stars. He saw galaxies spinning, fleets of alien ships waiting in the darkness, weapons strong enough to shatter planets. His chest heaved as knowledge poured into him faster than thought, and then he felt it. Power. Not the power of money or armies or crowns. A deeper power. The warship was no longer just a machine above Earth. It was part of him. Its heartbeat matched his own. Its strength flowed through his veins. The ship whispered again, softer now. "Commander," Eli gasped. "No, I'm just a janitor." But the ship did not argue. It only glowed brighter. To the warship, he was not just anything. He was the one who mended, the one who gave, the one who cleaned the broken. To the warship, that was enough to lead. Outside, the attack began. Missiles screamed into the sky. Explosions lit the night. Entire squadrons of jets fired at the warship, their weapons blazing. Tanks rumbled across the city, aiming their cannons upward. The billionaires watched from their bunkers, smiling coldly. "End it," they whispered. "End the janitor." The first missiles struck the ship. The world waited for an explosion, but instead the ship's blue shield flared like the sun. Every missile dissolved into sparks. Every bullet melted into dust before it touched the hull. Then the warship answered. Its glow spread wider, covering the sky like dawn. Thunder roared as beams of light shot downward, cutting through tanks, slicing jets from the air but never touching civilians. The ship's strikes were precise, protecting the innocent, destroying only the weapons aimed at Eli. People gasped in awe. Some fell to their knees, praying. Others screamed in terror. The world had never seen such power, and it came not from generals or kings, but from a janitor bound to an alien ship. Inside, Eli trembled. He could feel every movement of the ship, every pulse of energy. It was asking him for choices. Should it strike harder? Should it hold back? Should it destroy the armies or only defend? The weight crushed him. Billions of lives rested on his decisions. "Why me?" Eli whispered. "I don't know how to lead." The ship's voice replied, "Because you do not seek to rule. That is why you must decide." Tears burned Eli's eyes. He wanted peace, but he also knew peace was impossible now. The billionaires would never stop. The armies would never stop. As long as he lived, they would come. The ship sensed his fear. Its glow softened, wrapping him like a shield. We will face them together. But the choice is yours. Protect or punish. Outside, the armies faltered. Soldiers dropped their weapons, staring at the impossible power above. Some fled, some refused to fight. For the first time, the billionaire's money could not buy obedience. The attack had failed, but the billionaires were not done. They prepared something far worse. A final weapon hidden deep beneath the earth, a machine built in secret, powerful enough to destroy the warship. They would unleash it soon. Inside the glowing core, Eli sat with his head bowed, his hands shaking. The warship's hum filled his chest. He was no longer just a janitor. He was the commander of the greatest ship in existence, but his greatest test was still to come. The world was trembling. Cities shook as armies retreated in defeat, their weapons crushed by the glowing power of the alien warship. People stared at the sky in awe, whispering the janitor's name as if it was a prayer. Eli had become something no one expected, the guardian of Earth. But the billionaires were not finished. Deep underground, hidden for years, they had built a final weapon. A machine so powerful it could pierce the ship's shield. It was not made for defense. It was made for one purpose only, destruction. They called it the Spear of Heaven. And now, with their armies broken and their pride shattered, they prepared to fire it. Inside the warship, Eli sat in the glowing seat at the core. The ship's light wrapped around him, pulsing in rhythm with his own heartbeat. He could feel everything, the storm clouds above the city, the quiet cries of people below, the greedy whispers of the billionaires far away. The ship spoke to him in steady tones. They are preparing their final strike. Eli's hands tightened on the chair's edges. Can we stop it? The voice hummed in reply. Yes, but to do so we must reveal our full power. Once awakened, there is no going back. Visions filled his mind, fleets of ships hidden in the void, weapons that could burn planets, an army of light waiting to obey him. It would mean total dominance. No nation, no billionaire, no power could ever rise against him again, but it would also mean fear. Humanity would never see him as a man again. They would see him as ruler, conqueror, God. Eli closed his eyes. He thought of his old life. Quiet nights sweeping floors, cleaning dust from windows ignored by the powerful. Back then he had been invisible. Now he was the most visible man in the world. And with visibility came choice. The ship's voice pressed again. They will fire soon. If you do not strike, many will die. If you strike with full power, they will never rise again. What do you choose, Commander? Eli's chest tightened. He did not want to destroy. He did not want to rule. But he also knew, if he did nothing, the billionaire's weapon would tear through the sky and shatter everything. Far below, the billionaires raised their glasses in celebration. Let the janitor watch his ship fall, one sneered. Let him know who truly controls Earth. Their hands pressed buttons, unlocking the weapon's core. The Spear of Heaven rumbled, charging with energy brighter than the sun, and then it fired. A beam of white light shot upward, tearing the sky apart. The world gasped as it rose toward the silent warship. Inside, Eli gripped the chair. The ship's voice thundered in his chest. Now, blue light burst outward. The warship shone brighter than ever before, its shield glowing like a second sun. The beam of the spear struck the shield, and for the first time the warship trembled. The ground split, windows shattered, people screamed as the two forces collided. Eli's mind burned with pain. He felt the ship straining, its strength cracking. If he did not choose now, everything would be lost. The ship whispered again, almost desperate, "Release me. Unleash all. Punish them." Eli's tears fell. He saw the faces of the innocent below, the children, the workers, the people who had nothing to do with greed or war. He saw himself reflected in them. He was one of them, and in that moment Eli made his choice. No, he whispered. No punishment, no war, no fear. He reached deeper, past the visions of armies and weapons, past the hunger for power. He reached for the quiet light at the ship's heart, the light that chose him not for strength but for kindness. The ship obeyed. The shield flared with pure energy, brighter than the beam itself. The Spear of Heaven's light shattered, breaking into sparks that rained harmlessly down. The billionaires stared in horror as their greatest weapon crumbled into ash. The warship's glow softened, wrapping the earth like a calm dawn. No armies rose, no fleets awoke. Only peace remained. Silence followed. The world stared at the janitor who had chosen mercy over power. Inside, the ship spoke one last time. You have done what few ever could. You chose not to rule but to protect. For this you are truly commander. Eli bowed his head. I don't want to be commander. I only want to live. The ship pulsed gently, then live. But know this. Your choice has changed your world forever. The next morning, the warship rose higher, its glow fading into the sky. And before the world's eyes, it carried Eli with it, vanishing into the stars. People stood in silence, some weeping, some praying, some simply staring. The billionaire's empire had crumbled. Their greed was powerless against a man who had nothing to sell. But the story was not over. As the warship disappeared beyond sight, new shadows stirred in the far reaches of space. Other ships, other civilizations, watching, waiting. The world wondered, would they come as friends or as enemies? And somewhere among the stars, a janitor named Eli sat quietly, preparing for whatever came next.